All right, can y'all hear me now? Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? I'm not gonna lead this. Hold on one second. I'm mic check. All right, you can hear me now. Okay. All right. So anyway, I'll just start all over. Okay. I'm glad y'all can hear me. All right. Okay, I'll start over. A good 5 game win streak for the Pelicans obviously came to an end on the road with the Cavs. Against the Cavs. That wasn't surprising there. I mean, second night of a back to back, you go from an intense game at home where you had to use a lot of energy and a lot of emotion to come back and win that ball game. Play a great fourth quarter. You go on the road against a team that's very good at home, a team that does the things that you don't do well. The Cavs shoot the 3-pointer well. The Pelicans don't. The Cavs have a lot of length of the front court. The Pelicans don't. The Cavs have more veterans and experience than the Pelicans do as a group. So I don't really take the loss of that win streak, the breaking of the win streak as a particularly negative sign. I think the things that you have to just recognize over and over is what you saw during the streak and what you've seen over the last 10 to 12 games, in particular as the Pelicans have gotten, yes, healthier, but I think the biggest part is they've gotten more acclimated to James Borrego. And we'll talk about his future in a minute. But when you look at what James Borrego has done, all of the things that were glaring issues for the Pelicans as far as the structure of this team have been adjusted under James Borrego. There has been a structural difference, an ultimate change in just how the Pelicans function from top to bottom. You can see it. Yes, they had time to practice at home, and yes, the schedule in that time, having some extended opportunities at home are favorable to you. And the Pelicans typically have done well when they are given that kind of an advantage, either in rest or having extended periods at home to work together as a unit. But I think that there's several things that, regardless of your practice opportunities, that you see from James Borrego under his tenure so far. The number one thing is that you see a far more disciplined basketball team. Okay, you see a team that is committed to playing a certain style of basketball, no matter what the situation, no matter the quarter, no matter the deficit, no matter the lead, whatever's going on, they have committed to playing a certain type of basketball. There's also a clear understanding that James Borrego is going to put the players on the floor at any given situation that he thinks are going to help his team win. During these last 10 games, only 3 players have played more than 30 minutes per game, and they make the most sense, right? Trey Murphy, Sadiq Bey, and Derek Queen. And over these last several games, those have been your most consistent players, right? Nobody's been more outside of these last couple of games for Trey, where the defenses have really keyed on him and taken him out of the equation for big stretches of the ball game. Those 3 guys have been your most consistent players over these last 10 games. Beyond that, everybody is in a groove of about 14 to 25 minutes. So you're seeing a Herb Jones before he gets hurt. He's playing about 24 minutes a night, 2 quarters worth of basketball. You're getting about 2 quarters worth of basketball, a lot of your core guys. So you're keeping them fresh. But also your situation that you're able to take a guy out and he knows, hey, look, you're not playing well right now, but you'll get another opportunity. Guys are not being sent to the bench in the middle of a game that they may be on a heater. They may be playing well. They may miss one shot. They may make one play poorly. They're not gone after that. And I think that there was a feeling at times with Willie Green that, guys who got hot weren't going to get the opportunity to stay hot. And I won't spend too much time talking about Willie Green, but I just want to talk about the structural difference and how you watch players, how you watch timeouts be handled right now. How you watch this team and Borrego deal with them when they are doing well and how he deals with them when they're not playing well. That you see he's unafraid. He's not trying to inspire them every time because sometimes you don't have to inspire guys. What you just need to do is hold them accountable. And I think that's what you saw more than anything during the streak is that the personality of the team has changed. The identity of the team, the thing that they have talked about all this time of establishing some type of desire of competitive basketball and making the Pelicans a team that other teams know that they have to play hard against on a night-to-night basis. And you've already seen that start to turn. The league is looking at it that way. Players are looking at it that way. Teams are starting to say, okay, the Pelicans are could be a problem. Now, again, I keep saying it. I think that this team is absolutely 100% better. All the things that you needed to do. Tempo, they're better. They're getting better shots. They've improved their paint touches, and they're improving their three-point ratio and the quality of their shots. Okay, you're seeing a diversity of situational offense. You're seeing better after timeout offense execution. You're seeing guys trying things offensively that maybe they didn't feel comfortable with before, trying to expand their games, trying to be prepared for whatever the situation is, and being a threat. I think that other part of it too is that you constantly want guys to understand that if you're on the court, you have to be a threat. And I think as you look at how he's playing guys through these games, through these last 10 games or so in particular, everybody, when they come in the game, is being viewed and utilized as an offensive threat. You don't see Carlo Makovich hesitating to shoot the basketball when he's in the game. You don't see Yves Missi hesitating. If the shot is there, you take the shot. And that seems to have filtered throughout this team at this stage. And those are things that, through whatever purposes, whatever reason, over the previous 4+ seasons under Willie Green, it could never become part of the fabric of the organization and the players on the court. That desire to compete every night, and that feeling of, you're not going to hear anybody say that we're winning these games on talent alone right now. That criticism that you got previously by players in this organization, that they were out there at nights and felt like they were winning games on talent alone. You are now feeling like, as a fan and as somebody watching the game, or as an analyst, that the Pelicans have a strategic counter or a strategic option no matter the opponent. And you didn't think that before. The only option that you heard previously in the way that the Pelicans played was play with more force, play with more force. You've not heard that anymore, because the things that they can't do, this is not going to be a great rebounding team with this roster. This is not going to be a great defensive team with this roster. This is not going to be a great three-point shooting team with this roster. You can try to improve those things, and I'm sure that they will continue to try to improve those things. But the construction of this roster will not allow those things to take place. So if that's the case, what do? You do all of the things that you do well. And that was such a problem prior to what we're seeing now. That's why you see a different type of consistency for this team. That's why you see the similarity on a night-to-night basis from the wins and the losses. The problems are still there in the wins and the losses. But the way that they're playing, you're not seeing tremendous peaks and valleys with this team as you did earlier in this season and as you saw the entirety of last season. You're not seeing, yes, you're still seeing some bad defensive quarters, but you're not seeing the Pelicans come out and give you 106 points, 108 points. Last night was their worst performance in a while. And you're down some important pieces. And you have some players that just haven't reached any kind of rhythm. So I think to be where they are, to be sitting here at 8-23, going into a 5-game stretch that could also be a competitive stretch, I think you have to look at what is the identity of the team and who is responsible for changing that. And so there's been a lot of conversation about what does James Borrego's future look like now that the Pelicans have started to play better. And I think that the first thing you want to look at is you don't want to be putting into a situation where, right, you think that just because there's the change in coaches, you get the bump. That emotionally you just needed a fresh voice and will be better because of the bump. But we talked about this earlier in the season, and we said in the history of the NBA, typically when a coach gets fired this early in the season, there is no substantive bump. There is no substantive change. Typically, those teams just remain bad for the rest of the year. You may see a little bit more energy, but that's usually because there's an infusion of new players too. You see some guys go to the bench, get traded, whatever, and new guys come in and give a different energy. Like you saw last year at the end of the year with some of these teams like Brooklyn and things like that, that were still turning over their roster, but were putting a lot of young players who wanted to prove that they belong. So they played with a lot of energy and activity. Well, with the Pelicans, as we just talked about, there is a structural change with how they're playing. Borrego, again, he's not a soothsayer, but what is your goal here for your coach? For all these thoughts about it going outside to find another coach, what are your number one goals as a Pelicans organization? And how does James Borrego line up with those? Number one, did you want an offensive identity for your team? Yes. James Borrego is giving your team an offensive identity that is not centered around Zion Williamson. You have an offensive philosophy that works with Zion Williamson, clearly, because as we've seen, Zion's ability to score coming off the bench, giving you these 24 points a night, shooting back to around 60% again, giving you high efficiency, not giving you assist numbers that he did, but you're utilizing him as a scorer in this regard. And just as a scorer, you're not asking Zion to initiate anymore. You're not asking Zion to carry the offense. You're asking him to be a scorer and live with his limitations while giving him more minutes against second units. That is a strategic decision that, to me, tells me that James Borrego is going to be here for a minute, because there should be absolutely no rush on his part to put Zion Williamson back in the starting lineup. Borrego does have two goals. Yes, he absolutely wants to win games, and you see the way he coaches on a night-to-night basis. He's trying to win games. He also has to develop these two extremely talented rookies that you've brought in. And he's got to have some level of continuity for whatever's happening in the future, because, again, everybody's not leaving. So if you do change coaches, you have to develop some kind of system that if somebody comes in, that they're going to build off of. And I don't think that you need to do that, considering where you're going to be this year, next year, and probably the year after that. You're not going for that push for a championship. So to me, keeping Borrego is the best option for the New Orleans Pelicans. Keeping Borrego, who is a coach that's not going to cost you an arm and leg, and you know if you don't sign him, teams have just watched what he's doing with this group. If this continues, if you don't sign him and make him, you kept him from New York. Like if you did all this, you kept him from signing with the Knicks. You had him on the bench for these last 2 years, knowing that he could have gone somewhere else, either as another lead assistant or as a head coach somewhere else. You kept him. And now that you've done that, you're going to let him walk after he's done the thing that you've asked him to do in the interim? No matter what he's accomplished, everything that you could ask of your interim coach. He has created a system where your rookies are developing and your young players are giving real responsibility on the court and putting in games in situations that will help them improve as they go through their careers. He's giving you competitive basketball on a night-to-night basis in a style that is entertaining to your fan base and utilizes the roster that you do have. He's communicating to every segment of his locker room. He is reaching his stars. He is reaching his role players. He is reaching his end of the bench players. There's buy-in at every level, at least publicly, in a way that is believable. From body language to in-game results, whatever is being said is carrying over onto the court. And if that's the case, why rock that boat? Why bring someone else into this situation when there's going to be fluidity? And if you're going to have some consistency, let it be consistency in a positive direction. Not consistency for consistency's sake, but consistency in development of where you're trying to go. So when we talk about keeping your eyes on the prize, this is going to be the probably the longest part of this today. Because when I think about this, there are things that a 5-game winning streak does. And immediately you start looking at what's it going to take to get into the play-in, right? And I did the math. Right now, Portland at with their record through 30 games of 12 and 18 at 10 at that pace, you're going to need 33 wins. 33 wins to qualify for 10th. Okay? Roughly. Let's say if that's the pace that holds, 33. Pelicans have 8 wins, they'd have to go 25 and 16. 25 and 25 and 26, excuse me, 25 and 26 the rest of the way. 25 and 26 to get themselves a position to get 33 wins. 25 and 26. Is that possible? Sure. I don't think that 10th is out of the question. Now, what do you do to get there? What do you do to get there? Because I think now folks want the Pelicans to be buyers. Now folks are thinking that they want the to be buyers, and I don't think the Pelicans still need to be buying anything. Because you buy if you're chasing something immediate. You buy if you're chasing something immediate, and the Pelicans' goals are not immediate anymore. That changed when you got off to the start that you did, when all the bets didn't cash. So what are your goals? Let's say making the playoffs is still a reasonable goal. I'm fine with that. But let's not mortgage the future for a singular playoff run. I think you can make the run to the play-in tournament without giving up more assets to try to be a team that you're not really. Don't try to be something you're not. Continue to stay on the path to build the long-term success of this team. Don't be fooled with immediate success and think that is the long-term gain. And that's what the worry is when you have a 5-game win streak. Look at the substance of it, that they've changed their style of play, that they are utilizing this roster in ways that have not been done before, that there seems to be a cultural shift in that building, in that locker room, and on the court. Take those things away from the streak. But when you start saying, hey, maybe we can be a sleeper in the West, don't do that. Don't do that. That's what they want you to do. And who is they? That's what front offices want you to do. That's what front offices want you to do. They want you to start buying in again. They want you to start believing that contention is closer than it is. Okay. And if that's the case, you'll start buying in on them making bad moves because you think you're chasing something now. So what does that mean to me? And I think this is a question right here that this adds to it. What do you think of the Z situation? Okay. As I said, I think James Borrego is handling the first part of this absolutely correctly. Making Zion come off the bench, limiting his minutes to 24, 25 minutes every night, maximizing those minutes in the fourth quarter. I am on board with all that for James Borrego. If you're going to play Zion, then that's what you're going to do. But the long-term strategy with Zion cannot change to me. Don't start thinking now. See, I start seeing this on online where folks are like, well, look, now they found the perfect role. And we could do this with Zion for 3 more years, keep him coming off the bench. Nope. Nope. You're going to start falling into the trap. Okay? That Zion trap is that drug again. Because it's always going to get you high. Right? It's always going to get you high. When it's good, it's good. When Zion is on, it is a beautiful thing. But you know that high will not last. You start, as they say, chasing that dragon, right? You will never get that dragon again. No matter what, no matter how many times, it will never be like it was. So what do? you have two options with Zion Williamson. Number one is the financial option, and I've talked about this. If he gets to a certain level and he plays too many games and you're stuck with that salary, then you're talking about you've got to, obviously that's trade. But if you have concerns again that he's not going to play the games that he needs to play to get guaranteed, then you got to cut him to get those savings. Because if it's guaranteed and he's going to be sporadic and he's not healthy, then you cut him. But if he's giving that value, if he's maximizing his value, then there may be two teams that I think could be destinations. Because what you're looking for with Zion is desperation by the buyer. Right now, there's not desperation in the market. The risk is not great. The risk is too great. It's not worth the reward for the teams that could be looking at him because they have already gone out and checked to see what the value was, and there have not been any offers that have made it worth their while. And again, why would there be at this stage? A week does not prove that Zion is back. It proves it just shows you what you already knew, that he's a really great basketball player when he's healthy and he's super talented. You already knew those things. There's nothing that you find out new anytime that he's healthy. You see the exact same thing. But this is what you're waiting for is either a team that says, and this is right here, Super Six man, or for another team, maybe a contender just not here. And the two teams I'm thinking of, number one, the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons, they're looking for legitimacy. Nobody expected them to be in first place in the East. They didn't win a playoff series last year, lost in the first round to the Knicks. They need another scorer to go along with Cade Cunningham, somebody who can get them easy buckets. Opens it up for some of their shooters. So maybe a deal with the Pistons that includes the Pelicans getting back. Let's say there's two options I would think for the Pistons. Both of them include Tobias Harris, which is a big chunk of money that you get off of the table at the end of the year. And he's a guy who can shoot the three, who's going to be dependable, doesn't miss games, is a veteran who's going to enjoy playing with James Borrego. He's going to take shots. And the Pelicans need guys who can take shots. So you take a Tobias Harris, who's going to take a bunch of threes for you, who's going to be pretty efficient, who's going to rebound a little bit, right? So you take a Tobias Harris, and then option one is if you take on Jaden Ivey, which you say he doesn't really fit in his backcourt because he's not a great shooter, but I don't care because he's his expiring contract. So I can get him off the deal too. So I'm eliminating two players if that's trade. So I could clear up a lot of cap space. The other one with the Pistons, you take Tobias Harris and you take back a Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert has 2 years on his contract. But if you take LeVert, the Pistons might be more likely to give you a draft pick along with Zion. It might be down the road, a first rounder down the road, but the Pistons are going to be good in the short term. So down the road, it might be a good option, a conditional first rounder down the road. That's more than you're going to get for Zion Williamson right now. So that Pistons option, I think, could be very interesting as a team that certainly needs scoring. And you're looking at their interior scoring in particular. You're counting on guys who are not necessarily great interior scorers, and they need to open up opportunities for their outside shooters. They absolutely have to. The defense is not collapsing around Jalen Duren. Okay. The other team is the Miami Heat. And I talked about this one before the season because the big chunk of that, the money that you want to get there is the expiring contract of Terry Rozier. Okay. If you take back the expiring contract of Terry Rozier, that's 1 year. Then you get Khalil Ware, Now, you're not going to get a pick in this deal because Khalil Ware is a first rounder who's under cost control. So again, getting first rounders is highly unlikely for Zion. But if you're getting money out of the way, and that's the big thing, is get that money because you have to get these bad contracts out of here somewhere. Or even if they're bad contracts, they have to be able to contribute to what you're trying to do. This right here, the pool thing is the other part of it. And I'm not going to get into this debate with people who are Jordan Poole, stands, because I'm not arguing with you. I'm not arguing with you. I'm not going to talk about whether he's a good player or not. That's not the problem here. The problem is that Jordan Poole does not fit what the Pelicans are trying to do anymore. It doesn't fit. And then on top of that, even if he were playing well, on top of that, because again, the financial value, paying him $30+ million over the next couple of seasons on a team that's not going to be anything more than a play-in team over the next 2 seasons, this year and next. That just doesn't make good sense in the NBA. So on top of that, you add the fact that he's shooting for the year, whether no matter what stretch, whether you talk about the preseason, just isolate that. You take the regular season where before he got hurt, and you take these games now, he's shooting below 25% from three, and he's shooting below 40% overall. And he's not a good defender. He's played one good quarter of basketball, and that's just not enough. So whether or not he overall what his talents are, it doesn't make sense for the Pelicans. It's best for him to be somewhere else. It's best for the Pelicans for him to be somewhere else. Even if he were scoring 22 points a game right now, it would be best for him to be somewhere else because you're an 8-23 team that is just trying to make the play-in this year. And hopefully you're back in that position next year with a little bit of a stronger young core. You're no longer, I don't think you're worried about losing a Zion trade at this point because what's winning the trade? You're not getting over on anybody. Nobody's going to overpay. So if you can get, like I said, if you can get financial cap relief, if you get cap relief or you can get usable talent, like I said, in those Detroit scenarios, you're getting usable talent that allows you to continue your chase for the play-in, right? You're still in pursuit of the play-in if you have those players from Detroit, either of those combinations. If I give you Karis LeVert and if I give you Karis LeVert and dang, I'm awful for forgetting his name, but those two players, Tobias Harris, you're competing, right? You're still competitive. It's not Zion Williamson type dynamic scoring, but you're still competitive. And if I give you Tobias Harris and Jaden Ivey, you're still competitive. You're not losing there. I think it makes somebody like Jordan Hawkins, who kind of has been rendered expendable, certainly by James Borrego. Borrego's not here to coddle any of these guys. So if that's you have the players to move on, right? You have about 10 players on this team that are worth thinking about. Everybody else can go. DeJounte doesn't help. Like, even if he comes back and plays well, again, what is the game there? If you're trying to get his trade value up, fine. You'll do the same thing you did with DeJounte that you did with Zion. But you look at that bench and you think like, wow, the Pelicans have a really interesting bench with those guys, right? Pels will continue losing without him. Look what happened with Cavs with Bryce McGowan. Continue losing without whom? Without Jordan Poole? They're losing with Jordan Poole. Like, that's the point. You're not paying these guys. It doesn't make sense to be a losing team and have 3 players making $100 million who you can't count on and who aren't going to raise your ceiling. Making the floor higher for this team at 8-23 does what? You know what I'm saying? Like, raising the floor of this It's not where you're trying to be. You are looking at a league. Remember the timetable. As you look at this league, you are in the start of the Oklahoma City, San Antonio era. And you're not ready to jump into that fight. You're not ready to be the third team in that fight. Like in the 80s in the East, it was, it started off with Philly, Boston, Detroit. Then it became Boston, Detroit, Chicago. Then it became Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland. And Pelicans ain't ready to jump into that mix yet. You've got a lot to do, especially when you look at the fact that, Jeremiah Fears has hit his rookie wall. Right? Fears has been shooting the ball horribly the last 6 games. He's had some good plays, but right now he's kind of hit a rookie wall. You don't want him to lose. You don't want to lose his confidence. He's still the starter. They're still positive when he's on the floor. I don't want to threaten that by having to give minutes to guys because they're getting paid so much money. My future is not now. If I'm a Pelicans fan, I continue to want this team to play good basketball. And I think that response by the same thing as what you're seeing across the street at the Superdome, right? The Saints aren't good this year. But why is the Superdome a different place right now? Because they're playing different, right? There's a different energy. There's a different intensity when they're on the field. And you see the same thing with the Pelicans. If the Pelicans will give you that every night, and you look at the thing that you can see is that the best days are supposed to be ahead. Don't rush it. Don't rush it. Like if it says 380 degrees for 45 minutes, don't put it at 400 for 30 minutes. It's not the same. Right? Like you got to allow things to happen as they do. And that has been the big problem with this franchise. And I'll continue to say that over and over again. So what is next for the Pelicans? What do you do next? You continue to business as usual for the short term. You ignore these rumors about Trey Murphy. He's not going anywhere. Trey Murphy's not going anywhere. Trey Murphy is the best possible teammate for Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears. That trio and Sadiq Bey as a quartet, they are winning their minutes night in and night out. Herb Jones, when he's playing as he has been playing lately offensively, they are winning their minutes as a group. So you have 5 players that you can really focus on and build around where none of them are being paid an exorbitant amount of salary. None of them are uncoachable. None of them are going to be a problem in your locker room. You've got your 5-player base. I swear. Okay, I'm going to try to explain this one more time. Are you chasing short-term wins? I said chase the play-in. I said go for the play-in. I said it could take 33 wins to get to 10. To get to the 10th spot. 33. If you keep it pace the way Portland is playing right now, 33 wins. This was a team that was picked to win 32 before the season started. I said they were closer to 36. So somewhere near that is a reasonable number. Saying that they're like, it doesn't matter if they win 10 games in a row. That is not the goal this season is not to be like, oh, we're good and we're 10th. That's not the goal. All right, I'm going to give you the 5 players and we'll go back to this, Scott. The 5 players I'm talking about. You have Jeremiah Fears, Derek Queen, Trey Murphy, Sadiq Bey, and Herb Jones. Not as your foundation for the entire thing, but the 5 players that you know this season are working and operating no matter what your situation has been. As a 5-some, they have worked on the floor. Everybody else is negotiable, right? Everybody else. You've gotten good minutes from Micah Peavy. You've gotten good minutes from Bryce McGowan. You've gotten good minutes at times from Eve Meese. You've gotten good minutes from Carlo Makovich. You know what I'm saying? Like, but all of those guys are pieces that I don't have to be super concerned about. The 5 that I'm focused on are the guys who are going to get me to that 10 spot if I'm going to make it there. If I'm going to get it to 10 and 9, it's those 5. Like I said, even if Jordan Poole is giving you 22 points a game, even if he's giving you 22 points a game at that amount of money to get to 33 wins, it's not worth it, is what I'm saying to you. It doesn't benefit Jordan Poole. It doesn't benefit the New Orleans Pelicans. That is not the same as saying, I mean, like I said, I'm not getting into whether he has not played well recently. You say, well, they're winning the games. Yeah, they're winning the games. They're not winning because of him. He played one really good quarter, and that was a game that he helped. But the 3 previous quarters in that same game, he made some pretty bad plays on both ends of the floor. Like I said, you can't tell me how great he is. We're not going to do this when he's shooting 39% from the floor and 24% from 3. We're not going to do that. You're not going to tell me how valuable he is in that case. What I'm saying is just the business part of it. If you're a GM and you're paying a guy that much money, you're not trying to get 30 wins. You do that for a 50-win team. That's what I'm talking about. I talked about this a little bit earlier, that there are 2 teams that I think that you would trade Zion Williamson to right now if you can get the deal, and I think desperation is going to require that. Miami's gonna have to be desperate to make the deal, because, again, nobody wants to be first, and I think the 2 teams, Miami and Detroit, and I think both of those are places where you can get a good deal if you can make it work and you don't get greedy. He said, "This is not the time to be greedy. It's time to make the best deal." Like, you can't be greedy about Zion Williamson anymore. That time is gone. In year 3, you could have been greedy. You know, after the 49 was seen, you could have been greedy. You can't be greedy anymore. You got to get the best deal possible. No problem. Like, it's no big deal. Look, like I said, I just went back and recapped it. But I think what's next for the Pelicans is you start with those 5 guys, and everybody else you can think about moving, but what you're moving towards is the future, not this season. Don't make deals to chase something this season. Okay? Make deals that are going to impact the future. And that's why I say when I say keep your eyes on the prize is being very good, at least for a long time. We have seen this too many times in this team's history, right? That's why they've never won playoff series in back-to-back years. That's why it's been so rare for them to even make the playoffs in back-to-back years. And what has it taken? Right? In each of the last 3 playoff berths, and you get to the well, not the last 3, not the 49, but you go to the other ones. To make it as a 36-win team, right? You had to rush and play very strong basketball down the stretch. When you made it with Alvin Gentry's last team, you had to put together this amazing win streak late in the season to close the season in order to get to the playoffs. When the last time that Monty Williams got in the playoffs, he made it on the last day of the regular season. And then what happened the next season? Right? So if you chase these momentary things because it makes you feel better about the current period, but you're not looking at the future. And that's what I'm saying. Any trade that allows you to move those contracts, don't get personal about the players. You're focused on the success of the New Orleans Pelicans. So any trade that allows you to get rid of the contracts for Murray, Zion, or Poole, that can either get you first rounders now or whenever. And particularly, remember, you have no second rounders either until 2030. So if you're trying to continue to build this roster out at low cost, knowing that your ownership will not go over into the luxury tax unless you're a contender, and a 33 to 36 win team is not a contender. They are better. They are exciting. They are interesting. enjoy that and know that it's on the front office still to make this right. Right? Like you cannot, even if this team was completely healthy, it would not be a top 4 team in the West. And to win a championship, you've got to be a top 4 team in your conference. You need a rim protector still. You need rebounding still. You need shooting still. You're making 9 3-pointers a game. You're making 9 3-pointers a game. And that's not the fault of Borrego. I don't know. I think PV, could grow into a role. But again, I think that right now it's not worth removing her because both of them financially are not the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like if Herb is still the best defender you have, and I think as a teammate, if he can, if he's going to pass the baton to PV, then cool. You know what I'm saying? But I think right now Herb is not your biggest concern, and I think that long term, yeah, I'd like to see PV grow into that role because I think physically he gives you a different type of player. But he's got to show. Look, you don't win that game without the 8 steals that Herb gave you the other night, right? He's hit some big shots lately too. He's scoring in double figures, you know? So I think that when you take those links off, the fact that let's look at it this way. Add Herb and Bay as one player. Put them together and think about that financially. Okay, 2 veterans about the same age, play basically this, Sadiq plays the 3-4, Herb plays the 2-3. So you count them as one player financially. And I think when you look at it like that, as that wing depth of those 2 guys, then to me it's a value because they're both veterans who financially together make sense for what you have on the roster, the problems that you do have. Now I think that it is becoming more apparent that Eve Misi may not fit what Borrego wants to do, that Matkovic, that Carlo is a better fit for what Borrego wants to do. That doesn't mean Misi doesn't have value to somebody, but that may be another person that you look to move to get one of the either a shooter or a pick. Like you're not trade. I don't know if there's a big that somebody's going to give you a big for Misi, but I think what you're trying to get for Misi is a shooter or a pick, so he could be a real move that could help. So I think that 5-man core and the rest of those guys throughout as you look to the season, how do you move some of them to look at the long-term health of this team? But yeah, there is nothing wrong for the fan base to say we could get to the play-in. You couldn't say that 2 weeks ago. 5-game win streak, sure. Playing the way that they're playing, they're going to beat teams. Like you look at those teams, look at the schedule and look at those teams that are 500 and below. Can they feast there? How many of those are at home? We'll have to do that. And next week, excuse me, as we get to New Year's Eve, that's what we'll do on the show. We'll look at the schedule a little bit more and look at those teams in particular. Because if you're going to win 25 games, that's what they've got to win the rest of the way to get to 33. That's the goal now. I think that's a reasonable goal for everybody to say, can they win 25 more games to get to 33? So let's look at the schedule then next week and look at those and find those 25 wins. If we can find those 25 wins, I think you can actually accomplish those 2 goals this season. Yes, you can make the postseason, which they absolutely need to do. They can get to the play-in and maybe give themselves a chance to get to the first round. And then the second part of that is you can still be building towards the future that has to be better than this. I think Borrego just isn't playing Eve as much, not that Eve has played poorly, but I think what Carlo gives you, that vertical threat and then the ability to shoot the 3 in this offense and a team that just is not shooting the 3 well, it allows that. It's just better for the offense. And I think the Pelicans understand. And this is what we said at the beginning of the year, right? They have to be elite offensively because they will not be elite defensively. And Carlo is allowing the offense to be a little bit better, a little bit more of a higher octane. So, so we'll look at again. We'll look at those. That's what we'll do next week and go through the schedule. But that's going to do it. I got to, it's Christmas Eve. I want y'all to go out and enjoy the evening with your families. Again, I want to thank y'all so much for sticking with me throughout this year, and following Boot Crew Media as a group. All the great things, the expansion, just so much more has been added. Whether we're talking about Poke and Kush, whether it's talking about the high school, stuff, the LSU and everything that they've covered. I just want to say, I'm thankful for those things. Thankful for Justin. Thankful for Ross and the opportunity to come and be a part of this team. And I want to say I'm thankful for y'all, every single one of y'all who watches, whether you love it, whether you hate it. You come back, and I appreciate it. I hope I give you good enough content, and we're going to keep doing that more into the future. Make sure you come back Friday after the game against the Suns. I'll be running the post-game show, so we'll have some fun there. I'm going to go have dinner with my daughter and my friend, and y'all have a great Christmas. Merry Christmas to each and every one of y'all. If you don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays. And if you don't celebrate any holidays at all, just have a great day, great weekend. And I will talk to y'all next week. Until then, this has been a Post Up with David Grubb on Boot Crew Media. I'm out.
What's up, guys? We have an awesome deal going on with the Game Time app. Make sure you use code BOOT to get $20 off your first purchase. I personally always use the Game Time app. There's no late hidden fees. You get to view your seat from where you want to sit in the stadium or the arena. And I absolutely love using the Game Time app. So make sure there's a lot of games coming up with the Pelicans, a lot of games coming up with LSU, Tulane, you name it. Make sure you use Game Time app and use code BOOT to get $20 off your first purchase.